afternoon. I'm in charge of innovation, and my name is Kim Won. About 2 years ago, we had a big audience, and we had a similar lecture. And at the time, I just joined Novartis. So I was a new employee, and everything was new. Very good to see you again. 2 years has passed, and over the past 2 years, we had a lot of conversations with different people, and we wanted to understand how to build our ecosystem. And there are many information that I want to share with you, and we are going to share our ideas with you, which is open to you. And open innovation is underway, and there are some challenges that I have faced, and let me share what I have experienced. In Korea, we have a healthcare ventures, and they try to come up with the new medications. I have an IT background, and digital healthcare is an area of my interest, so I had a lot of collaboration with them. And for the new medication development is an important issue to startups. So we decided to have a contact point so that we can have a better communication with you. So today, I just want to give you some guidelines and opportunities to have a collaboration with you in the future. And that will be the first presentation. And second, I'm going to talk about the diseases or indications that we are working on. The diseases that we want to cover are hard to find or diagnose, and once the diagnosis is made, we need to do a good job of follow-up of the management. In order to maintain the health of the patients, we need to go through the entire cycle. So clinical decision support need to be provided for the doctors. With the software, we can help them. And once the diagnosis and treatment are done, the patient need to get access to the information during the follow-up period. And we have a program run with the Seoul Bio Hub, and through the challenge programs, we come up with the prototype quickly before they're introduced into the market. And we utilize our network, but try to expand our network so that we can find more opportunities. We are collaborating with many players, and one of them is KT. Taking advantage of the network, we are able to find the right partners and potentials too. And what I'm going to share today is not limited to Korea. We just want to share our global insight. So we are going to invite the Kristen Teo, who is the head of the Novartis Biome, and he's going to introduce our program to you. And I hope that all of you enjoy our presentations. Once all the presentations are over, we are going to have a Q&A. So feel free to ask any questions if you have any. We will be ready to answer those questions. Thank you.
So in this session, we're going to learn about Novartis Biome from Christian Teo, who is head of Novartis Biome APMA. He's going to talk about a number of projects that are underway and key trends in biomedical field.
Thank you very much for that introduction, and Won, who's my colleague in Korea, for that wonderful primer to this discussion. 안녕하세요. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. My name is Christian, and I'm the head of the Novartis Biome in Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Africa. So for the purposes of today's discussion, I'm very excited and thankful to have this opportunity to share with you how the Novartis Biome works with our partners. What does innovation mean to Novartis in the region, and how, if you're a startup or you're a healthcare system, you can actually get involved and work with us today. So allow me to do a share screen so that at least you have a visual reference. And please do let me know if you have questions at the end of this presentation. Great. I can't see my own Zoom very clearly, so let me know, admin team, if my presentation is not showing. So everyone, today we cover mainly two items, right? So the first one is really, what is the Novartis Biome? So what does it mean for us to partner with you? Why did we set up the Novartis Biome? Why is Novartis interested in this space as a pharmaceutical company? On the second level, we look at partnering with healthcare systems. So beyond just the partnerships with health tech companies, why does Novartis and how does Novartis want to work with hospitals, healthcare professionals, clinicians, in order to realize this vision of better patient outcomes that Juan mentioned earlier in this discussion? So without further ado, let's kickstart. It's quite a lot of things, so we have about, I think, 20 to 25 minutes to go. So first of all, a lot of people do wonder why is Novartis in the game of partnering with startups? Why are we interested in developing digital health solutions in collaboration with different people? And the reason is really because we realized at an early stage that digital transformation is something we couldn't do alone, right? So at a time where pharmaceutical companies were adopting the digital technologies, where we were moving into things like Juan mentioned clinical decision support, but even earlier than that, we had things like marketing, right? How do you develop omni-channel marketing efforts? How do you engage healthcare professionals in a way that is relevant to today's time, especially as we're all work from home in COVID, right? So, we said, well, our CEO said, passionate startups and entrepreneurs are the vanguard of health tech, right? We want to work together to translate that innovation into real solutions for patients. So the whole the whole concept of design thinking, of patient centricity, that was the reason we started the Biome, so that we could actually enable Novartis's strategic imperatives. So on this slide, you'll see the top 3 imperatives that I'm referring to, right? The first one being going big on data and digital, as we mentioned, right? How do we leverage this new technology to drive better outcomes? Number 2, we have, how do we actually partner and engage the external partners in order to realize the first agenda item, right? And then lastly, how do we shape these partnerships so that they have scale, right? We don't want to create something that works in isolation or only for a very small group of patients. We want to make sure that the entire ecosystem is involved, and Novartis is able to play a meaningful role in that ecosystem together with incubators, accelerators, universities, startups, the government, and so forth. And this is why we set up the Novartis Biome. So a couple of challenges that we realized as we were starting the Biome, right? And I think my peers in the pharmaceutical industry would probably agree that they at some point faced the same issues, right? So at number 1, you see, we had an ambiguous view of the objectives. So should we focus on telemedicine? Should we focus on therapeutic areas? How should we drive the strategy for how Novartis develops digital health, right? And we needed to have that alignment, and that's why we set up the Biome to do that. The second thing, subscale engagement with the ecosystem. So everybody nowadays talks about open innovation, working with startups, partnering, but the mechanics, the actual implementation of that is much more complex. How do we develop the systems and operations so that we can actually effectively partner with the ecosystem, so that our partners feel that when you work with Novartis, we are working with a partner that actually wants value for the patient, and we're not doing it because it's fancy or it's cool, right? How do we show that we mean what we're saying? The third thing there is mismatched onboarding. So this speaks more to the internal processes of Novartis. As you know, the pharmaceutical industry is a very, very old industry, just like the healthcare one. So how do we make sure that we're able to change ourselves from within, so that when we meet that promising health tech company that we want to work with, or that hospital group that says, Novartis, we want to make sure that we can create something with you, how do we make sure that internally we are ready for that? So there's a huge change management effort involved in Novartis at the moment across the region. The fourth element, lack of evidence. So we can't have 100 digital health solutions with no impact on the patient, right? We want to make sure that every time we invest in a solution, we see that there's real world evidence that is gathered, and that is measured in the form of various things such as pilots, clinical trials, even smaller proof of concepts. How do we make sure that we gather that body of evidence so that when we make decisions, they are objective and not based on subjective whim, right? And then lastly, of course, we have an experience in scaling digital health. So this was true a while ago, right? This was true when we were just starting out on this journey. So those are a few of the reasons why we started the Biome, and I'll be happy to share more with you as we go forward. So now I'm going to delve a bit deeper into what are the capabilities that Biome has that we will provide to you as a healthcare system and as startups, right, as health tech companies. So let's start from the top, right? So Biome has a 5-step operating system. And this is very similar to a lot of design thinking approaches that you see elsewhere in the industry. So we identify the problem. So we work with clinicians, we work with health techs to say, what are the therapeutic areas that Novartis is interested in? And how do we tackle that problem? Is that the right problem to tackle? The second step is to identify the partner. So through due diligence, through scanning the environment, through consulting with our partners in the global ecosystem, how do we make sure that we're able to find the right partner to effect the right solution? Step number 3 is about actually onboarding the partner. As we all know, the most difficult part about open innovation is really the collaboration hypotheses and the collaboration implementation. So how do we make sure that we can do that with our partners? Step 4 is basically validating the solution. So whether through proof of concepts, pilots, clinical trials, how do we invest in, design, and deliver the best way in order to see that the solution works? And we've developed a methodology for this called the Evidence Lab that I'll explain more in the next few slides. And then lastly, how do we help our partners to scale the solution? So if something works for a patient in, let's say, ankylosing spondylitis, how do we make sure that that also works for the same group of patients elsewhere on the planet, right? Even in rural areas, in areas where there's a lack of patient activation, in areas where patients are screened at a very low rate. How do we make sure that we reach those far and wide regions so that one solution doesn't exist only in isolation? And then we go to the second tier, which is below. So what are the assets that Novartis actually has and we've built over the last few years? So we have things like the digital brain, which is a database of health tech companies evaluated per Novartis standards, right? What do we think is a good health tech company and how do we evaluate that? That is the Novartis digital brain. And then we have the Evidence Lab. The Evidence Lab is a series of hospitals that we are building across the world in order to provide testing grounds for new solutions. So there the hospitals and the clinicians have agreed to be our partners to actually test those solutions because they believe that they work, right? And they want to see the results to implement with their own patients. We have this thing called the Guild. The Guild is basically the internal structure of Novartis that is created to accelerate the development of solutions. So for example, when we're talking about regulatory environments, how do we look at the regulatory pathway of something like software as a medical device in order to ascertain how long will it take to develop, test, and scale a solution within the regulatory environment of a specific country, right? These are the things which the Guild looks at, and we've set up a team specifically to do. And then, of course, we have a data sandbox where we look at the data that we can actually share with startups, right? Anonymized forms of data which we can use to actually test solutions. So I've talked a lot, and apologies if this seems like a data dump, but I'm trying to give you as much as I can in this 20 minutes or so. Now, at the bottom of this slide, you'll see partners. So we realize we don't want to do this alone, right? So we have partners in the external ecosystem that help us, right? To do scouting, to develop open innovation programs, even to audit and evaluate the way we do open innovation in the Biome. And we leverage these partners as and when we drive innovation programs with you in the process. So where is the Biome? How many biomes are there on the planet? At the moment, there are 12 fully operational biomes, and these span the regions that you see on this map. So the dark blue regions on this map represent Novartis's top 11 markets, and we have a presence in all of them, right? So we have the US, China, Brazil, which represents the Latin America region. We also have Canada, Singapore, which is where I'm from, where we look at Asia Pacific, Middle East and Africa. And we also have Israel and a number of others, right? So what does this mean for you as a startup or someone looking to launch a digital health solution? It means that if we help you to develop your solution in Korea, and we see potential for that to also work elsewhere in Novartis and in our hospital network around the globe, we want to help you scale and do that. And our Biome hubs are all set up and ready to do that with a set structure and the same methodology that I've just shared with you. So this is just to give you a sense of what's happening. We have 3 more launched recently in Italy, Kenya, and Korea, as my partner Juan will share with you. We also have 2 in Japan and in Australia in discussion. So please do, if you are a health tech, get in touch with a Biome if you're interested in working with Novartis, because this is the first place to begin when working with us. So the logical question now is, how does it work? How do we know that a solution that's been built in the Biome is actually scalable? So let me use the process that I shared with you earlier to demonstrate an example of how it works. So as some of you might know, Lucentis and BioView are treatments that Novartis has in our ophthalmology line, right? But I'm not going to explain about these treatments today. I'm using them as an example to show you how we work with health techs, all right? So in the first step, you'll see identify the problem, right? And onboard the partner. So this is where we found a company in France, or Biome France found a company there called Tilac Healthcare. And what Tilac does is a remote monitoring solution for eyesight, okay? So basically they're able to help patients monitor the degeneration of their eye condition remotely from home, right? Using a mobile app. And we said, well, that's very interesting. What if we could use that to help our patients track the progression of their disease and actually improve their condition and understand where they are in that patient journey through a mobile app? I mean, ideally, what we want is to drive what you call adherence, right? To make sure that if a patient is prescribed a treatment, he or she follows through with that, right? So we said, okay, now that we have the problem and the solution, we need to make sure that it works. So because this was started in France, we did an in-market pilot study, right? So we ran a small proof of concept with about 2,000 patients in order to say, what is the effectiveness and efficacy of using this? If a patient uses Tilac, how much further does it drive up their adherence to a treatment? How much further does it make them want to find out more about their condition and treat themselves as part of the solution, rather than a patient-doctor relationship whereby the patient doesn't take full ownership of the disease, right? So we said that, wow, it actually worked. And what happened was we moved to step number 5, which is we gathered the Biome hubs in the region and we said, this needs to be scaled beyond France. This can't just work in France. This has to work for all our patients across the region and with the hospitals that we work with. And so we worked with 6 countries this year and 5 next year to basically deliver this at scale, right? And based on internal calculations, that adherence rate has led to a certain return on investment for us. Investment in terms of seed funding for the idea within Novartis. So with about 10 minutes to go, let me delve into the second part about healthcare systems. So a lot of what I've talked about pertains to health tech companies. But what if you're a hospital group? What if you're a healthcare transformation office? How can you work with Novartis to get those digital health solutions out? Let's take a look at that. So first of all, I mean, our leadership is very focused on this, right? So here we have Marie France saying that digital health solutions are as innovative as the science itself, right? So this kickstarted a lot of conversations recently around how do we partner with hospital groups, right? To make sure that when we have a digital health solution that has been grown in a country, we have hospitals around the world that are willing to help test that solution, run clinical trials, get clinical validation. Right? And Korea is a wonderful example of that, as I'm sure Juan can share a number of examples. So let's say you're a healthcare transformation office. You have 3 options today that we are completely ready to work with you on, right? So number 1, if you look at everything that I shared earlier, that is available for you to use now, right? So we are standing ready to say all the capabilities that the Biome has, is on a plug-and-play basis for your hospital group that we can do today. The second thing is that network of test partners that we're building is not just available to us, it's available to you. So if we develop a digital health partnership, we want to make sure that that is scaled not just in Korea, but beyond, right? Even as far as the US, right? Or even in Southeast Asia or China, right? That we have every intention to do that. And then lastly is the access to the digital ecosystem. So because we have 12 biome hubs actively in operation across the planet, every one of us has a network of digital health partners, whether they are health tech companies, government, academia, research institutions. We are providing that network to you so that we can collaborate to drive patient outcomes as a group, right? As a team. And I think that's how we want to work with you, and we invite you to do so. So this co-creation journey, again, it starts with problem identification, the partner, solution development, testing, and then scaling. So whether you're talking about ophthalmology or you're talking about cardiovascular disease, it doesn't matter. The same system applies, and we would use that to prioritize and work with you. In certain cases, you may not need all 5 of these. You may say, well, Chris or Juan, we were only interested in a partner to do pressure testing. That's fine, right? If there's alignment between what we're looking for and what you're trying to do, and you need the hospital networks beyond Korea, we are more than happy to provide that, given alignment in therapeutic areas and so forth. So what is this network of evidence labs? Where are the hospitals, right? So at the moment, as you can see, they're mostly in the UK and the US, right? But we're not stopping here. So there are discussions underway across the planet, even here in Singapore. We've had a couple already, and I think we're very excited to work with you to further develop this list of evidence labs, right? So maybe next year when we come back to this conference, Korea would be on that list, right? So just to share with you some very interesting progress in that area. So in the last 5 minutes, I'm going to talk about the 2 partnerships that we have, right? And Novartis has a lot more of these happening. It's just that at the moment, these are the 2 publicly available information that I can release to you. But if you're interested to know about our other projects, please feel free to contact Juan or myself, and I'm more than happy to take you through that. So this is the earlier example of Tilak Healthcare, right? So their solution is called ODSight, right? It's for vision. So we've launched this in 5 markets, right? So you see in the middle. And we have plans to actually do this in even more, right? Once again, why are we doing this? Why do we want to help Tilak scale, right? It's because we believe in their vision, right? We believe that if we're able to help patients do remote monitoring, to take ownership of their vision, that will increase adherence to their treatments. And increasing adherence to their treatment means better outcomes, right? People are able to prevent degeneration. People are even able to prevent blindness in some cases, right? Why shouldn't we be doing that for as many people as possible? Another case study, and this is one of the earlier case studies in Novartis's history, right? So if you look in sub-Saharan Africa, right, they are prone to sickle cell disease and in some cases malaria. But the diagnosis of that condition is not easy, right? It's not easy and it's disparate. So you would have villages that have certain better access to diagnosis labs. You would have villages that are thousands of kilometers from the nearest one, right? And you have villages that don't even have access to screening services. So we found this company in Oregon in the US, right, that actually is able to do a point of care diagnostic. So you bring this to a remote area and you're able to accelerate the diagnosis and screening of patients without sending that data to a lab. Think about it. You're disrupting an entire healthcare chain by doing that, right? And we said, this has to go out. This has to scale. And therefore, we supported them to get regulatory approvals in Ghana in order to roll it out in Africa beyond that, right? So I'm just looking at the time. So we've got a couple of minutes more, but I just wanted to say, and I know I'm saying this wrong, kamsahamnida. Thank you for your time, and we'll have a Q&A after this, as I understand. So please do let me know if you have any questions about working with Novartis Biome. What are the biome hubs doing across the planet, whether in Korea or Singapore or the UK? More than happy to delve into those conversations. Otherwise, we could also take this offline, as they say. So once again, thank you very much and for having me, and have a wonderful conference, everybody. Thank you very much. I'll hand it back to you, Speaker, Secretariat.
Now I'd like to talk about what Novartis does, Novartis Korea, rather. And before that, we had presentation on Biome. Thank you for making a good presentation. Dr. Teo, thank you so much. Let me begin my session now. My name is, I'm in charge of open innovation. I also lead the Health Challenge. My name is Sung-Sik Moon. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to make this presentation. I'd like to thank Seoul BioHub and KHIDI for giving me this chance. Without further ado, let me begin my presentation. Let me introduce myself to you. I'm with Novartis. I'm in charge of innovation. I'm a consultant for the oncology business too. On innovation, Health X Challenge leader is what I do. And I also run other programs, as you saw on the slide. When you see this slide, what comes to your mind? It shows you the pharma industry, which is changing at a very rapid pace. And what does it mean, innovation? I have several images here. Once the COVID-19 hit us, we have online meetings, and today we are having this meeting online. And the biggest change is that we do not have face-to-face meetings. Rather, we do have this kind of meetings online to share information and have discussions. So our lifestyle has changed. And as for the pharmaceutical companies, they tend to be very conservative. Healthcare industry, you may think that they are very conservative, which is true to some extent. But despite the nature of a conservativeness, we adopt new technologies such as big data, EMR, and big data analysis. And we do not evade the innovation of technology. What is the open innovation or journey for open innovation? As a pharmaceutical company, at the center of us is the treatment or therapies of different diseases, indications. Doing so, we can enhance the quality of life and prolong the life expectancy. This shows you the journey that patients take before they get the treatment and after they get one. We give prescription or medications to the patients, and before that, they got aware of their condition first and foremost, and get diagnosed and get treatment and get the follow-up care. Before they get diagnosis, they get some symptoms and decided to come to the doctor. And let's imagine you are a patient, or I am a patient, and how do you recognize that you are sick? At first, let me give you a recent example. I use wearable devices such as a watch, and through that kind of device, we get the information about me, which was not possible in the past. These days, we get the measured blood pressure or pulses and stress levels are displayed. So we get to get the awareness of the condition or diseases that we may have. And once you feel that you have something wrong, you go to the doctor and get diagnosis. And you have gene test or EMR and other tests so that you can identify the cause of the illnesses that you may have. Once you are diagnosed, you get the treatment or therapies. So for the treatment, you get the medications in the past, and a few months later or weeks later, you come to see the doctor again. But now, it's different because you are able to utilize the app through which you get the information about the condition that you are in, and then there is an alarm function so that you can take the medication on time. And last step is follow-up caring. You need to get the follow-up caring once you got the treatment. When you finish the treatment or taking a medication, you still need to follow in order to make sure that you remain healthy without having the symptoms again. And all in all, we have different technologies applied so that you can more easily check the health status of you. Then, Novartis Korea, what do? We try to build an ecosystem. How? First, let's say that through different routes, we try to identify the challenges or problems. And we try to find the right partners who have good technologies. We do collaboration with technology partners. And last and not the least, we pulled all the resources together along with the partner. And as one team, we try to find the solutions to the problem that we identified in the first place. What do we do in Korea? What are the innovation process that we apply in Korea? Not only the Novartis Global, but also the Novartis Korea, we do try to find various partners ready to do collaboration, not only with the big companies like Samsung SDS or KT. We work with small startups, Humanscape or Big Noise or other venture firms. We work with the startups as well. As Theo showed during his presentation, the Novartis Global do form a partner with other partners, and that's what we do in Korea too. And what do we do in the Korean market? We do go through these steps. SMA refers to spinal muscular atrophy, and then AS is ankylosing spondylitis, and heart failure, and we have eye conditions. And across different conditions and indications, we try to identify the issues and challenges. And then we had a chance to have meetings with the partners or potential partners. And we try to find the partners with the better technology or quality technological capabilities. And then the next step is onboarding with the partner. We prototype the problems and come up with the solutions. Over the past 2 years, our innovation team went through the steps. So we are up to step 3. In the future, we will do the test and get the medical grade, and then we will make a success. And then once we make a success, we will scale up so that we can share that with the global. We can share it globally. So these are the steps that we'll go through. And once we have a very good solutions, we share and implement together.
자, 제가 지금 현재 서울시 그리고
Seoul City,
바이오허브,
Seoul Biohub, and KHIDI, Korea Health Industry Association or Institute, we have been working to implement this Health X Challenge Seoul for 2 years. Last year we launched it, and this year mark its second event. So let me introduce the challenge, Health X Challenge, to you briefly. Our motto is Challenge for a Healthier World. We try to create a healthier world with innovative partners. We try to come up with a solution that can prolong the life expectancy and enhance the quality of life. So startups and small companies with innovative ideas are welcome. As I said, we had the first event last year. There were 2 topics that we identified. The first was rare disease. Second topic that we adopted last year was spinal muscular atrophy, SMA in short. We try to find digital solutions for those indications. So when we ran it first time last year, we organized a committee or screening committee consisting of experts. So we went through 2 rounds of screening, first document screening and second presentation. So last year we had 2 winners. Excellent companies were chosen. As for the rare disease topic, Rare Note app was chosen, and the company's name was Humanscape. And for SMA, it was before she launched the business, and Rim Dabin was chosen as the winner for SMA. And as for the Humanscape, we are in the process of getting the prototyping ready, and next time and I will talk about the Humanscape more later on. And as for Imdb, she actually started a company named Care3 this year. And she will launch an application for disease diagnosis. And for this conference, I'm going to introduce Health Challenge and those 2 winners. So I'm going to share a short video clip with you before I move on.
안녕하세요. 한국 노바티스 혁신사업부의 문성식입니다. 헬스 X 챌린지 서울은 바이오 및 디지털 헬스케어 분야에서 혁신 기업을 발굴하는 한국 노바티스의 오픈 이노베이션 플랫폼입니다. 노바티스의 혁신 연구센터인 바이옴의 오픈 이노베이션 프로그램 헬스 X 월드 시리즈의 일환으로 2020년에 서울시 한국보건산업진흥원과의 협력을 통해 국내에서 첫 런칭하였습니다. 저희 헬스 X 챌린지 서울은 챌린지 for a healthier world라는 비전 아래 노바티스에서 해결하기 위해 노력 중인 다양한 의료계 난제들을 함께 풀어갈 혁신 플레이어들을 찾고 있습니다. 매년 다양한 주제로 챌린지를 운영하고 있으며 2개 기업을 최종 선정해 전문가 멘토링 및 코칭, 연구지원금, 한국 노바티스의 프로토타입 연구 및 개발, 서울 바이오허브 입주 등 비즈니스 성장을 위한 다양한 혜택과 기회를 제공하고 있습니다. 작년 챌린지 때 희귀질환 인지도를 높여 조기 진단을 위한 솔루션과 신생아 대상 척수성근 위축증 조기 진단을 위한 솔루션 아이디어를 모집했으며 그 결과 저희는 유망한 2개의 기업을 발굴할 수 있었습니다.
저는 케어트리의 대표 임다빈입니다. 케어트리는 개인의 건강 정보를 통합적으로 관리하고 의료진과 일반인 사이의 거리를 줄여주는 회사입니다.
저는 헬스케어 스타트업 휴먼스케이프의 대표를 맡고 있는 장민우입니다. 저희 휴먼스케이프는 오프라인 의료 헬스케어 시장의 언맨 니즈를 모바일 기반의 B2C 서비스로 해결하는 스타트업입니다.
척수성 근위축증은 생후 0에서 6개월 사이에 발현되는 제1형이 가장 기대 수명이 낮은 만큼 조기에 발견하는 것이 정말 중요한 질환입니다. 조기 발견을 하기 위해서는 아이의 발달 상황을 지켜보아야 합니다. 하지만 우리나라에서 시행을 하고 있는 국가 영유아 건강검진의 경우 생후 9에서 12개월이 돼서야 첫 번째 발달 검사를 하기 때문에 이러한 질환은 조기 발견이 어려운 게 현실입니다. 저는 부모가 아이의 발달 상황을 체크해 볼 수 있는 앱이 필요하다고 느꼈고 또 이를 통해 의료진과 면밀하게 소통을 할 수 있는 아이디어를 제시하여 지원을 하였습니다.
저희가 지원하게 되었던 그 아이디어의 골자는 레어노트 서비스의 경우는 실제로 희귀질환 환자분들이 많이 사용 중인 앱 서비스이고 마미톡 서비스는 신생아 관련된 이제 임산부들이 주로 사용하고 있는 서비스이다 보니까 각각 그 대상군에 맞는 그 희귀질환을 조기에 진단할 수 있는 그 데이터 플랫폼이자 풀로 활용할 수 있다고 생각을 했고 그 관련된 디지털 솔루션 아이디어를 가지고 지원을 하게 되었습니다.
지금 만들고 있는 앱은 소아를 대상으로 한 앱이지만 추후에는 어른까지 쓸 수 있는, 즉 모두가 사용할 수 있는 통합적인 건강관리 앱을 만드는 것이 목표이고 의료진에게도 도움이 되는 앱을 만들어서 결국 일반인과 의료진 사이의 거리를 좁히는 플랫폼을 만드는 것이 꿈입니다.
지금까지 두 가지 서비스를 운영해 온 것처럼 한국 시장에서의 헬스케어 분야 서비스로서 레퍼런스를 확고히 하고 확보된 레퍼런스를 기반으로 인도네시아와 베트남을 비롯한 동남아시아 시장에 진출하는 것이 저희가 현재 가지고 있는 목표입니다.
저희 헬스 엑스체인지 서울은 앞으로도 헬스케어 분야에서 혁신 아이디어를 보유한 유망한 플레이어들을 발굴하고 이들과의 협력을 통해 더 건강한 세상을 만드는 데 최선을 다하겠습니다. 감사합니다. 네. 저희 인터뷰를 또 이번에 1차 선정된 업체를 대상으로
Those companies who pass the first screening had the interview. So later on, we are going to share the updated information or progress with you. So when we have the conference next time, we will brief you on what have been updated. And this year we will have another challenge for 2021, and we have identified two topics. One is hereditary retinal disease, and the other is EMR. So for the diagnosis, when you see the diagnosis, you check it and record it in the EMR, electronic medical record. We have different informations entered into the electronic medical record, and using different technologies, you will be able to make a prediction based on the information available from the EMR. And for the genetic retinal diseases, as you may be aware, you have to have a gene diagnosis to identify whether you got this disease or not. But it took a very long time. The accuracy was not as good as we expected to be. So when we care the patient with the genetic diseases, we try to find the problems that they face and try to help those people with this disease. So that's why we chose these two topics. So up to now, I talked about the health challenge. And from now, I'm going to talk about what we do at Novartis Korea along with other companies, not only the big ones, but also small ones, including venture firms. This is a first case, which is called a Dipnoid, which is a imaging company. And this can be applied to the patient with AS, ankylosing spondylitis. The problems that they have is as follows. They do not notice the symptoms progress. Once they notice that the bone has been deformed quite significantly, so early detection is important. But in order to find problems with the bone, you need to get the image, such as X-ray, and try to do the reading, a thorough reading, but you do not have enough time to do a very careful reading sometimes, and sometimes you find it difficult to identify the progress. And as for the patient, they do not notice what is going on in their body until it gets too serious. So what you see on the slide is the patient who is suspected of having AS, ankylosing spondylitis. Once you get the image, you may segment the bone in the neck. It's assessed one by one. But to the right, you have an image. As I said, it takes a lot of time to make a good assessment of the image, and there are limitations of making a thorough and accurate reading of the image. So we try to come up with the ideas that can support it. So we teamed up with the company with the AI solution so that we can assess the patterns of the bone and confirm that, so that we are able to assess the level of severity or progress of the disease. So we are in the process of getting the prototype of that. This is a second case, which we are working with the Samsung SDS for the indication of heart failure. As for those people with heart failure, what are the issues they have? Let's say that you are hospitalized and you become stable, then you are discharged. And once you come back home and discharged, you may undergo a serious problem again, relapsed, and get hospitalized again. So we utilize the big data of those people with heart failure, and then by applying the AI, we can identify those people with heart disease who are prone to relapse, so that we can reduce mortality and rehospitalization. So machine learning and deep learning will be used to reduce the rehospitalization rate and then mortality. So this is the project that we are working on. And as for our company Novartis, we are working with many different hospitals, and then we kind of function like a bridge between big hospitals and IT company, and we share our insight as well. Health X Challenge for 2021, 2020, Humanscape was chosen as a winner. And with our SMA, spinal muscular atrophy team is working with Humanscape. Let me talk about the condition first, SMA. SMA is the first reason of the infant death, and prevalence is 1 out of 10,000. Once you are affected by the disease, and many of them lose their life. So the mortality is very high. And as for the humanscape, they have a number of pregnant women as members. So they have a huge number of women, especially pregnant women, as members. And they use the Mommy Talk, the mobile app. So all that information of the disease is shared through the Mommy Talk, and it allows you to detect the symptoms and also to detect the disease early rather than late, so that you can reduce the mortality death rate. So we are doing prototyping for this as well. One of the biggest telecommunication carrier is KT. We are running a project with them too. And along with the Korea Heart Failure Society, we are running a project. And we develop a develop a monitoring system so that we can reduce the hospitalization of those patients with heart failure. And then, along with our partners, we are planning to come up with the treatment approaches which is tailored to each patient. So this monitoring app will lead to lower hospitalization. This is somewhat different from what I said, but it is still related to innovation. We have a patient support program. Let's say that we have a clinical trial. To the left, we have a stack of the paper, which means that we had a lot of paperwork that needed to be done. I believe that you must have experienced it before. Internally, we had an internal communication, so that using the internal digital solution, we can have a better communication. So after going through trials, we have simplified the process. So now, through the mobile phone, you can just support the patient. So this is one of the examples of the innovations that we have achieved. Today, I think that this topic is something new, bio, research, tech, open innovation. Today is Medical Bio Conference, so I believe that many of them are involved in the new drug development. So I just want to share this information with you. We are searching potential partners, and we just want you to know what are the areas that we are interested in. Since we are pharmaceutical company, what matters most is developing new medications, good ones, so that we can enhance the quality of life and increase the life expectancy. That's what we want. So as for those of you who are on the online, what we want are these. First is first in class. FIC in short. We just want to have a new medications that has never been launched in the global market. And second, head-to-head clinical trial was done in human bodies and its efficacy has been proven. And the third is a faster follower. In the Europe or US, through the clinical trials, if you believe that your medication can be one of the top 5, ideally top 3, then we are very interested in. So these are the 3 conditions that we look for. If you have any good ideas that may meet them, please apply or contact us. And going through the process, we will try to connect you with the global team so that we can improve the possibility of developing new drugs working with you. Then what are the indications that we are interested in? These are the areas that we are interested in. You may think that they cover almost all the diseases and indications, but let me go through one by one. First, the autoimmune and transplantation, inflammation and cardiovascular disease or metabolic conditions, and respiratory, hepatology, and nephrology are the areas that we are interested in, and ophthalmology, musculoskeletal diseases, neuroscience, and oncology, and immuno-oncology, and hematology. These are the areas that we are interested in, and new drugs are required or need to be developed for these. This is the last slide of my presentation. Let me read the English. If you go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It is said to be that it's an African saying or proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, then you have to go together. I have been in charge of innovation for 2 years, and I had a chance to see a lot of startups. And going through the process, I found it's very difficult. But there are many companies with the potentials. I wanted to boost or give some assistance to them. But no matter what, I thought that we cannot make or we cannot achieve what we want by ourselves. I believe many of you have the passion to make changes. But making change is very difficult if you try to do it alone. A lot of efforts are required, but if you do that alone, it will take a long time. And if you go together, you can achieve something bigger, and we can make differences too through the innovation. So I want to share the chance to make innovation together with you. Thank you for listening. This concludes my presentation. Then let's move on to the Q&A session. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your attention. The topics we have dealt with was on a very wide range and on a very diverse programs. and we have partnership where we select our partnership, and we do also have a way of seeking solution in conjunction with different partners, and we also have programs for new drugs and new medical devices. Because Novartis is engaged in many different forms of partnership, so I think there will be sufficient area for collaboration. And we haven't shown you our contact information. We're going to let our contact information known to you through Seoul BioHub, and if you are interested, please do contact us so that we can have a follow-up conversation. As Mr. Moon said, with conversation, our ideas will not dry up, our ideas will even become richer. So I'm hopeful that we will be able to gain further opportunities for that. And particularly, we are very committed to become a launch pad for a lot of Korean innovators. To make that happen, it's crucial that you come in contact with us and share your ideas with us. I believe Korea can become a biohealthcare hub, and ask for your continued support and interest.